like science.
I like science.
I like science.
I think we have a
Science.
reprieve from our neighbors partying.
Okay,
I don't
cool.
hear anything.
I don't either.
Yeah, lately each weekend our our neighbors have been partying, playing some ranchero music, and so you could hear the bass pretty significantly. And I think maybe they're having dinner or something because I don't hear it currently.
Well, it's a little early for dinner, but I hope
Yeah,
they've just decided to engage in some other activity for the time being
right.
so that we can get this done.
So yeah, if
So,
you start hearing bass later in the show, we're probably picking it up. Hopefully the mics won't pick it up, but if you do, that's what's going on.
yeah, these mics that we have, they have good background noise cancellation, but they
Right.
can't cancel out everything, especially
Yeah.
really loud Mexican music.
Right.
So, however, there were some tunes that I very much liked,
Hmm.
even though
Yeah, it's
I
like I don't
don't,
mind so much. It's just us
yeah,
recording. It does
I
make me want to break out my PA system and have a little competition. I was saying on Twitter I should break out the Christ and the Einstürzen Neubauten.
oh yeah, drive
Just
them
do
up the
Jung and
wall.
just yeah, just Germans beating metal on metal. Yeah,
Yep,
that would really go over well.
yeah.
Yep.
If you want some speed metal, throw in some Dragon Force.
Oh, there you go.
Really,
A Common
really.
Christ just have a song listing a bunch of serial killers
Oh yeah, sure.
using some kind of text-to-speech program.
Mm-hmm. I
Yeah.
like it.
Hmm.
So here we are, episode 3.
Here we are, episode 3. We'll know if we've got a thing going once we hit 10. I think that's the benchmark a lot of podcasters go by. It's like once they hit 10, it's like, oh yeah, this is a thing.
Yeah.
So
And
we're nearly there.
I'm gonna say this right off the bat. This was something that came to mind today for Dan offered, our good friend Dan Gunther. Hi
Well, gotta
Dan.
gotta get a mention each episode, it seems.
Yep, he'll be mentioned in every episode, no matter
Well,
how I can
if
do
it
it.
happens, it probably will. Well, we usually do anyway if we're gonna promote the Unready Room, so
Of course.
while it's currently going.
Yes, and even when it's not.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Dan has two different spreadsheets for all of the Trek episodes slash movies
Braggart.
and and short treks and whatnot. So, but he has one where it's broken down by series and then season,
Right.
like I have. And then he has one that is just all of the episodes and movies via air date or release date.
Right.
And so that is how we're going to, he offered, for us to use that going forward as far as choosing randomly so that we don't have to narrow it down. We just do a number between 1 and
Yeah.
933.
So we have a bunch of files in one folder rather than a bunch of folders in a file.
Yes.
So yeah,
Yes.
that's going to be more
So,
convenient. It's going to be fun.
mhm.
Also, we discussed the whole movie thing, and yeah, it's going to be completely random. It's not going to be a special Star Trek Day event, even though it just so happened to be so for this Star Trek Day. It was just
Yeah.
coincidence that we're doing a movie for Star Trek Day, but it's just going to be the movies, the television shows, just at random at any episode. So there's no
Yep.
special separation between any of them
Yeah. It
or
needs
any
to
occasion.
truly
Yeah.
be random, which is why,
Yeah.
yeah, which is why we're doing that.
It's just
So,
weirdly, I was thinking of doing movies for Star Trek Day, and it just so happened to happen this time, just on a fluke,
it did happen on a fluke. I
on a
wonder what will
lark.
happen next Star Trek Day because God knows they sure didn't plan anything for Star Trek Day
No.
this year.
Yeah, our episode dropping is probably going to be one of the few things that happens for Star Trek Day.
It just really is sad because
Hmm.
just like 2, 3 years ago, they were really going all out
Yep.
for
Yep.
celebrations, and having a live streaming show and all of this, and now just nothing, just
I would
nothing.
wonder how much has to do with Paramount's financial problems that they just didn't want to bother with it.
Yeah, there is that.
Yeah.
Paramount, you suck. You screwed everything up.
Well, they never did understand Star Trek as a franchise. that they
No.
have something that's comparable to Star Wars. They just don't know what to do with it.
Hmm.
It's like Disney is, like them or not, they're doing something with Star Wars,
Yeah,
But
but a lot of it is not for me.
yeah,
I don't
I
enjoy a
liked
lot of it.
Acolyte, but then it's the Jedi as ACAB, so
Hmm.
I got a kick out of that because if you really watch the Jedi through Star Wars, they're not that great. I mean, they're lying to Luke, they're setting him up to basically commit this terrorist act.
Hmm. Well,
It's
to be fair, it's kill or be killed.
yeah. And there's
So,
something about, his uncle not wanting him to be hanging around Uncle Ben because he
hmm
knows who he is.
yeah,
So it's
there's a
like
lot
you
of stuff.
haven't been hanging around with that weird guy in the desert, have you?
Yeah.
Jedi
Stop.
groomer.
Stop. Gross. Stop getting your Star Wars and my Star Trek.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. So we have a new segment
We
that we're
do.
introducing because this is the first reason we've had to do it. So welcome to Subspace Messages.
Yeah, this is going to be our feedback section, and it's pretty cool to get feedback this early as a podcast because that's
Agree.
something that kind of rolls in usually later, and often it's corrections or stuff. But we had some pretty good messages. First one comes from your buddy Patrick, or our buddy Patrick. Patrick Carlin says, there was a scene early in the episode Drone where Tom was talking about how uncomfortable in general the Type 2 shuttles were, and Seven suggested the design of a new shuttle. So that's why the Delta Flyer doesn't seem to come out of nowhere. It feels like it was set up at some point earlier, not by name, but it's like, hey, maybe we should work on a new shuttle.
Yeah, and I appreciate that because I had forgotten that fact because I do remember that
Yeah.
episode. But
Yeah,
I had
if
forgotten that Seven had said that Tom had said what he said and Seven had said what she said. And it's interesting that they actually paid that off because that's
right.
not really Voyager style
Yeah,
at this point.
Voyager, it's like they set stuff up and then suddenly change their mind. It's like, okay, who's Seven in a relationship with now? Kind of thing.
Yeah, no, don't start with me with
Yeah.
that. It's just it was still in that mindset that you had to have episodic television where someone
Right.
could drop in and watch an episode from any season and not be lost about what's going on. And I'm like, why would you do that with a book? Why would you do that with any story?
If you're
Why?
Don DeLillo, probably.
Mm,
Or was it Thomas Pynchon kind of reads like that too?
yeah, but those are the exceptions rather than
Yeah,
the rule. And this was
right.
just the standard rule for syndicated television at the time, which is, thank God, Babylon 5 came along and changed all that. Don't yell at me and say it was Deep Space Nine because Deep Space Nine did not start serializing their seasons until later, whereas Babylon 5 was
Right.
doing it from 1996.
Well, this is something that's been litigated a lot on Star Trek podcasts is that Straczynski went to, I think, the Star Trek people with an idea
Yeah.
for a Babylon 5 kind of series.
No, no, no.
And
He had
right.
Babylon 5
Yeah,
ready to go. He had the show Bible
right.
done.
Yeah, and they declined him, and then they came out with Deep Space Nine, which has a lot of similarities. Your space Jesus, your occupation of this planet by, a hostile alien race and all the political intrigue involved.
Yeah.
And these space beings that have the good side and the bad side warring against each other
Yeah,
with
you've got your
everybody else
Centauri.
stuck in the
Excuse
middle.
me. You've got your Cardassians,
Right.
Centauri, and you've got your Bajorans.
Yep. So there's a lot of similarities there. I mean,
Hmm.
yeah, Star or Deep Space Nine did its own thing, strayed from that thing, but I think that the core themes of Deep Space Nine are very similar to Babylon 5.
Yeah. And Straczynski seems to be a stand-up guy and could have gone after them legally
Yeah,
and stuff like that. Decided not to. Found a home for his show
right.
and there we go. So and I'm not saying that Deep Space Nine was bad. I'm saying the people who did what they did, the people who decided, "Oh, we're gonna just borrow some of these ideas
Right.
and pretend like they are original ideas. Those are the people that I'm not happy with, and I will bet you money one of them was Rick Berman. But anyway,
Yeah, it does seem a little plagiaristic,
yeah, it
but I
is. It is
think,
very.
yeah, even so, we got two great things out of it.
We did. We did, except DS9 did not get preempted as much as Babylon 5 did.
No, it did not.
So, but
Guess it
that's
depends on what
okay.
channel you're on.
That is okay because I have all the seasons and the original pilot movie on Blu-ray now. So, ha ha.
We have one
Anyway,
other piece of feedback, and
yes,
that comes from Michael Loves, our NHS, one of our British listeners, but certainly a member of the Star Trek community that we've kind of formed around ourselves through the Unready Room and all that.
indeed.
And he says, something somehow calming and reassuring about listening to you two. Also, I'm
Oh.
henceforth going to be calling our literally shitty water companies the fucking Melon. It's actually risky to swim in the sea here now, although people still do. Spot on about Brexit. Lol.
Fucking Malon.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
love that.
speaking of, I've been listening to the back catalog of one of the Maximum Fun podcasts, The Flophouse, and they did an episode on Atlas Shrugged,
Mm,
which was, I guess, supposed to be the first in a trilogy.
mm.
But because it is a movie and not the book, it excised all the logical stuff behind egoism. And so you didn't have the reasons why they were so against altruism. They just seemed like the characters were a bunch of selfish assholes.
Well,
And
they
they tried
are.
to modernize the story too. And so you had like gas and airline prices were super expensive. So people are going back to using trains because the novel has a lot of stuff about trains in it.
Mm,
And that there's this new type of steel that this manufacturer created. It's like there's this weird fantasy that Ayn Rand had that the people who owned capital and were heads of industry also invented and created this stuff,
no.
which isn't true. It's like saying that Elon Musk creates the Cybertruck or the SpaceX stuff. He owns the company. He's got engineers that build the stuff.
Yeah, that's
And a
like
lot of
saying
the
white people
times,
built the railroads.
yeah, he fires essential personnel, which is partly why Twitter is so bad as it is right now. Is
Yeah.
that the people that are there to make the thing work, he streamlines and cuts out because he wants to maximize profit, which is the kind of person that Ayn Rand appeals to because she's speaking to them, even though they're not these superheroes that Ayn Rand invented, thinking that the owners of capital are also the industrious people that build businesses from the ground up. I mean, every once in a while you might get one of those,
Mm,
but it's rare that you do. It's mostly Nepo babies that inherit money from their fathers and then go in to invest it very badly. Because I think Twitter's now at 10% of its original value. It's lost
anyone
90% of its value.
anyone who is surprised, raise your hand.
Yep.
I see no hands. No hands.
So, yeah, it was fun listening to the Flophouse talk about that because they were reviewing it specifically as a movie, but they were talking about like, well, the philosophy as well and how badly the movie covered it because it didn't
Hmm.
even give you that philosophical reasoning behind motivated self-interest. It is just people being assholes.
Yeah. And if you ever want to experience what the true aftermath of that kind of ideology is, play BioShock.
BioShock's really good for it.
Yeah, because that
Yep.
shows you what actually happens when
Yep.
everybody's a selfish asshole.
Yeah, and when there's no regulation, and so science can do anything it wants,
Yeah.
including creating these weird mutagen things that you can inject yourself with to give yourself superpowers,
Yeah, it's
like lightning abilities.
and unfortunately, it's making people less human.
Hmm.
Imagine that.
Yep.
BioShock's a great game, guys. If you haven't played it, it's also
Yeah.
terrifying. It is terrifying. So, any more from Subspace?
I don't think so. Shall we get into our review?
Let's do it. Okay, as you all know, we were tasked by artificial intelligence to cover
By
the
the
movie.
god of chance.
Yeah, by the God of Chance, Star Trek Nemesis. And I I had not watched it in its entirety since it came out in the theater in what, 2002, I believe.
I don't know. I can look it
I'm
up
pretty
though.
sure it's 2002.
Star Trek Nemesis
So
2002. Sounds
I think
right.
I think so. And this would be the last of the Next Generation movies as far as theater is concerned.
Right.
Not rest cinema, really. Theater is in person, cinema is motion pictures. Yeah, yeah, I got particular. So, any word on if it's 2002?
I'm trying to look. I'm gonna have to. Oh, there it is. 2002 science fiction action, 1 hour 57 minutes, PG-13,
Hmm
38% on Rotten Tomatoes, 2.75 on Letterboxd, 6.4 out of 10 on IMDb.
Mm,
So kind of all over the place,
yeah.
critically.
So let's get into this. I'll be honest, this movie starts slow as fuck.
Yeah, it starts with Picard dressed like a napkin or something. He looks like he's wrapped in cotton. It's like, I don't know with the bald head if he looks like an applicator or something. I don't know what's going on there,
He's a
but
Q-tip.
he's a Q-tip. He's a Q-tip. Um, but yeah, he's talking about honor and duty in one of his usual Picard speeches, and then it turns out he's at a wedding and he's doing a little speech.
Oh, whose wedding is it?
It's Riker and Troy.
Yeah, it's about fucking time.
Yeah.
Jesus, you guys. You move slower than sloths.
Yep. And Worf apparently is the comic relief in this movie because it seems like any joke is oriented around him having a
Mm,
horrible time as Data's singing blue skies.
yeah, well, to be fair, he did have an affair with Deanna.
Yeah,
So
I guess that's
he's,
true.
I think that that was also partially going through his head during that
Yep.
time. Or maybe I'm giving him too much credit. I don't know. But yeah, it's definitely not like Klingon weddings. So I was
No.
assuming he was annoyed because
That
of
there
all
wasn't
of
a fight
the,
yet?
yeah, that there was no fighting, no
No
blood left
blood wine.
behind. Yeah, no blood
No
wine.
gawk.
Yeah, none of the good stuff.
Yep.
So yeah, and Picard mentions that they're going to the Titan.
Right.
So, and I don't know that we've ever gotten a name drop for the Titan before this movie.
Oh,
And it's interesting because the Titan that they go to is different from the Titan that you see in Lower Decks.
right.
So this is definitely a change as far as the class of starship they're going to. And of course Picard doesn't want them to go, and he's mentioning, training his new first officer and such, but he never actually physically says who the new first officer is going to be.
I thought he referenced Data as his first officer, didn't he?
Did he? Because I don't remember him actually saying the
Right.
words, saying
I
the name.
think like the
So,
subtext was such that you got the impression that it was Data.
well, then why would Data need to be trained? He knows
Yeah.
everything. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Anyway, can't he just download the protocols for being the
oh,
first officer?
I'm sure he already has those
Yeah.
somewhere in his positronic matrix.
Right.
But yeah. I do appreciate that when Data gets up to present his gift to the couple before he starts singing, he welcomes ladies, gentlemen, and transgendered species.
Yep. Yes.
Wow. For 2002, that is a big fucking deal.
Did he say transgendered or did he say non-binary? I can't
He
remember his
said
specific
transgendered. I
wording.
wrote it down.
Hmm, cool.
Yep. So, meaning you could be whatever you want, you are welcome there. And I
Because I know
appreciated that.
non-binary often gets lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
But and we're more aware of that now. But
Yeah.
for them to be aware of that and put it in dialogue back then, because there were episodes of Star Trek that touched on, or Star Trek Next Generation, I should say, that
Right.
touched on certain things like the episode where, oh gosh, my brain, I could look this up, but I'm not going to take the time. This is just how it happens, guys. It's the
Right.
one where Riker goes to that
Hmm.
planet and there's the species that they have no gender, but
Right.
he meets this person that decides that she's female, and they basically reprogram her. So like
Right.
Yeah, it just because shit was like that was happening in real life.
Mm.
And that was a really impressive episode to have at that day, that day and age.
And I believe the writers and the team itself and Frakes as well wanted to push it further
Yes.
to the point where it wasn't specifically a non-gendered person wanting to be female,
Mm-hmm.
that he wanted to push it more into that gender wasn't that big of an issue regarding people in the Federation.
Yeah.
But
What if he
yeah,
wanted to
the
be a guy?
production team kind of shied away from that and went with something that would be, I guess, more
Safer.
accessible to certain markets, which is always how you lose your messaging is when you soften it.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
accessible
what
to
Rod
straight
Serling had to
people.
do. Yeah, is that's why aliens and stuff were these aliens and monsters and whatever. It was how Rod Serling wrapped up stories about racism and bigotry and
Hmm.
that sort of thing. Is to soften the message so they could sell the show in the South.
Yep. And Star Trek carried on that noble tradition by
Yep.
using the future and aliens
Mm-hmm.
again
Yep.
to portray these stories that need to be portrayed.
Yep.
So,
And as we've progressed over the years, we've not needed to soften the message that much, which I guess is why some criticism is that the messaging in Star Trek today is so ham-fisted. Is like, well, it's not so much ham-fisted as we don't need to hide it anymore because
mhm.
we've mostly progressed as a society, except for those few bigots out there. But why should we pander to them?
Well, see, and
No
that's the
tolerance
thing.
for the intolerant sort of thing.
Exactly. Subtlety obviously doesn't work on those people. So, yeah,
Yeah.
we're going to throw it in their face as if this was normal because
Yep.
it is. Because
Because
it
that
is
way they'll
normal.
pick up on the message because it's blatant. Because when it was wrapped up softly and tossed to them underhand, they didn't
Hmm.
get it.
Yeah, just like a nice little beanbag. Just like,
Yeah,
here, catch
yeah.
this.
It's like a game of cornhole.
Yes, it's like a game of cornhole.
Yep. That
Cornhole's
might be
fun.
our title.
Game of cornhole.
A game of it has nothing to do with the movie, but
Doesn't need to have anything to do with
but that
the
could be our title.
movie. I don't know that we're going to get better than that, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Who knows? We're good.
There is a
We're a
very
clever lot.
yes, we are a clever lot. There's a very disturbing thing that happens though during the wedding reception when
Hmm.
Riker and Troy are dancing and someone infiltrates her mind.
Yeah, this is something that occurs later on too during their wedding night, and it's
Hmm.
very disturbing. And it's something I thought they'd learn the lesson from
Hmm.
because they had her violated mentally during the television series, and that was a not very well received bit of
Hmm.
television. And I'm sure they had plenty of complaints about the representation of abuse, sexual abuse on television.
Yep.
And yet they do it again for a film? And
They
that's kind of a
obviously,
mark against this movie, I
yeah,
think.
I didn't like that aspect of it at all.
And,
And
and it's
why is
not
it?
played very like I don't know. It's like they don't take it that seriously or that threateningly. I mean, she was
Mhm.
assaulted and they just kind of seem to shrug it off or
Yeah.
even have her kind of play to later on to kind of trap them.
Mm.
So it's odd. It's weird.
Yeah. I don't like that part of the storyline at all. It shouldn't have been in there. Didn't like
Yeah.
it. Because again, it's just like, can we please stop with the assault on women? And almost always, like 99% of the time, it was Troy.
Yes.
Just
Yes, it
stop that.
was.
Just stop that. We don't
Or
like it.
the time we had the haunted candle
Ugh.
with Crusher,
That wasn't exactly it wasn't exactly assault, but it was.
but
I mean,
it was.
it wasn't, I mean, she was into it, but
Yeah,
she was also under the influence of something else. So
right. So
it's
it's yeah,
it was still pleasurable to her, but that doesn't make it
right.
not assault. So, yeah. But anyway, yeah, they've got a mission to do now. Oh, yeah, mission. Woo!
So
I do like
yeah,
Picard calling Riker Mr. Troy and him being affronted by that. Another thing that pissed me off.
yeah. This makes me think that maybe with the Betazoids,
Betazoid. Beta Z is the
Betazoids,
planet. Betazoid is the
right?
person.
is that maybe they are a matriarchal society because you get that from her mother.
Oh, they're
There's
absolutely a
this,
matriarchal
yeah,
society.
implication that women pretty much rule the planet. And so that in their custom, which includes nude weddings, which gets referenced several times because nudity is funny and a possible source of shame even that far in the future.
Mhm.
Um,
Only to humans.
yeah, only to humans.
Yeah, because most of the other races are just like, "Pfft,
Yeah.
and
But yeah, that maybe the men do take on the woman's surname
yeah. Or why did they have to take surnames at all?
at all.
Is
Yeah.
that necessary?
Yeah, just keep their names as they do in China.
Yeah. Why make this big fuss over it?
Yeah.
You know?
So the daughters take their father's name, but when they marry, they keep it. But even so, you're taking your father's name and not your mother's name. So it's
Yeah.
still, in some regard, patriarchal.
Yeah, it depends on the what's the word I'm looking for here? Customs
Right.
of that particular group. But,
Yep.
I know plenty of people who didn't take plenty women who didn't take their husband's name,
Right.
and when their kids are born, they take their mom's last name
Right.
because who birthed that child? Mama
Mhm.
did. Did the guy
And
do anything
there's
except be a sperm donor?
the hyphenating, but if you keep hyphenating, your name's going to become like enemy mine when their name's like super super long because you have all your progenitors included in your name.
Yeah, well, that I wasn't talking about that.
No, you weren't talking about that, but I'm just saying like if you do hyphenate the name and then your kids hyphenate their name and then their kids hyphenate their name and so on and so on and so on. Yeah, you could see how their name could get really, really long. I
Yeah.
offered for you to keep your name, but you liked my name, so you took it.
Yes, I did because Barnes is boring as fuck.
Oh, okay.
And Jacola sounds so cool.
Yeah, even though it's incorrect because it should be Yahweh.
Yeah, but I don't care. We're not
Yep.
doing it the Finnish way. This is the
Nope.
Americanized
With
version.
with double A's and double K's all over the place.
Yeah, so many.
Yep.
So many. Yeah,
It's okay. It's a common name in Finland, so it's no big deal.
it's like
It's basically
Jackson.
Jacob's.
No,
It's
Jacobs,
really
yeah.
what it means is Jacob's farm.
Hmm.
So it's super
Funny.
common.
Isn't that really how all surnames
Yeah.
started?
Yeah, it's a peasant name. It's not like one of the cool Finnish names. It's just standard. One of your law
Yeah.
names, peasant name.
Yeah. Okay, so what happens next? Oh yeah, they got to go collect android parts. They don't know they're collecting
Right.
android
Yeah,
parts
in the
yet.
Argo. And it's like, okay, is the shuttle named the Argo or is their little dune buggy called the Argo?
Both. They're
Both.
both.
Yeah, that's got to be
Because
confusing for inventory.
yes, well, I think it's like it's a dumb idea. It's like don't
Yeah.
name the shuttle. You don't need to name the thing that it's in. It's like here, let's advertise to everybody that this thing is called the Argo and the thing
Yeah.
in the thing inside is called the Argo. It's just a dune buggy, y'all. Just
Yeah,
a
it should
dune
be
buggy.
Argo 1 and Argo 2 if you do that anyway.
Yeah, it's
The
just
Argo 1's the shuttle, Argo 2 is the dune buggy. But no, they're both Argo. It's
yeah,
weird. It's
just
confusing.
Argo. And why that was so exciting. It's just
Picard liked it. He wanted to
yeah,
drive around at, I don't quite remember what Data said, but unsafe speeds or something like that.
yeah. Did you just call Data data?
Yes, probably.
You
Because
Pulaski'd him.
I did because that's how I hear the word around the people I'm with a lot. But yeah,
Yeah,
Data.
his name is Data. So, but yeah, because they detected this positronic signal or whatever, and that's it. It could only be mean, something that was made by Dr. Soong or some such
Yep.
nonsense like that. Blah blah blah. And
Yeah, and
so
it's like,
they,
yeah, it's super rare to find a positronic signal, positronic signal that's specific to androids created by Zoom.
yeah, and so this whole thing is just kind of boring, you know?
Yeah, for supposedly an action sequence, the action set piece early on, it was rather dull and a little
Hmm.
confusing too because they go down to a planet where they're not supposed to interfere because of the Prime Directive, yet somehow they get involved in this car chase and gunfight. It's like, who are they car chasing and gunfighting against? Is it,
The natives.
yeah, the natives that they weren't supposed to interfere with?
Well,
And they're,
I don't think it was a prime directive thing as much as it was this planet is not friendly.
oh, okay. I thought,
They're not part of the Federation
yeah. Oh,
and
maybe that's what it was, is they weren't part
yeah,
of the Federation. I thought they were suggesting that you can't interfere because of prime
no.
directive and that they're not warp capable and all that stuff.
Oh no, they totally fought him.
All
So
right.
it is
Yeah, because
definitely not a prime
that's what I
directive thing.
found odd, is like, aren't they not supposed to interfere? And here they are interfering. But
No.
yeah, they do find android parts belonging to, it looks like another Data.
Yeah, another Soong android.
Yep.
So which which when they finally find the head, that was funny. Anyway,
Yep.
basically Data talking to a head. It's funny.
What's in
And
the box?
what's in the box? It's Gwyneth Paltrow's head, not Data's head.
Okay. That's what it reminded me of. So
Yeah, because they're
yeah, I had a good laugh
putting
at
all the
that.
parts in the trunk.
Ugh.
The
As much
dune
as people love
buggy and
Seven, I just
whatnot.
shake my head at it going, oh, this is bad.
Yeah, I've never
His
watched it
whole
and I never will.
ploy is bad. The whole seven scenes thing is done poorly, and it
Yeah.
just creates images in your head you don't need.
Yeah, so
It's
take that,
bleak.
Seven,
Yeah, take that, seven.
the movie.
Yeah. Was
Um,
that David Fincher, I think?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, the natives are really pissy. Natives really pissy, but they manage through ridiculous vehicular manipulation to jump the dune buggy back into the shuttle and take off to get back to the Enterprise.
Well, Data is driving, and you figure he could work out the physics to
Was
have that
he?
work.
Because
He
Picard was
was.
driving.
No, because you saw him calculate, and I think you had Picard kind of looking at him like, what are you doing? And they had that little barrier thing, so when they came crashing in, that it slowed them down. It was like kind of a little springboard thing.
Still pretty sure Picard was driving.
Yeah, for some reason I thought Data was, but maybe
No,
not.
he was not driving at any point. He was
Hmm.
always in the passenger seat and Worf was in the back.
Ah, I thought maybe you took over so Jean-Luc could shoot.
Oh, no, yeah, like Jean-Luc is gonna give up the driver's seat on that.
Mm,
He never gets to play.
right.
So, and that's the whole thing is that he shouldn't have been going down there anyway, but captain's
No,
prerogative.
yeah, and I think that's why I'm believe Data was supposed to be first officer, is that they were looking at Data when they were talking about protocols of the captain not supposed to be going on away missions.
Mm,
And Data's like, that is correct. That is the protocol. Those
yep.
are the procedures.
Yeah, the music has started up again, guys. So if you
Yep.
hear it, we're sorry.
Yeah, if you hear, it's kind of a
We're
ballad going on right now.
try to filter that out with noise
Yep.
reduction, but yeah. Man, I cannot read part of my
The chicken scratched it.
Oh, I remember. Okay, so yeah, after this is all going on and they reassemble this guy and it's basically he calls himself B4. He's
Right.
basically like a 6-year-old.
Yeah, he's very naive.
Yeah.
Asks a lot of questions, especially why, which he
Why?
does a lot while they're driving.
Why?
Yeah. And they
Why? Because
eventually
Data's holding this
close the
head in his lap.
head in the box, which might mean that Picard was driving the whole time if Data
I'm
was
telling you.
talking to Before's
Telling you
head.
what. Yep.
Yep.
Yep. And obviously something that's not as advanced as Data and whether that's by design or not, we don't know. But let's get to the part that I forgot about completely,
All
even though I
right.
knew it was there, but I forgot about it again. We get a Janeway appearance up in here.
Yeah, Admiral Janeway. She outranks
Admiral
Picard.
fucking
Yeah.
Janeway. Hell yes.
Showing up, and as usual, the Enterprise is the closest to wherever this kerfuffle is, because I guess was it Romulans having a meeting with Remans or something, and they
Yeah,
had that
something's
weird
going on.
poisoning
Well, yeah, that's the thing. We totally glossed over the actual opening scene
because it
of
was
this movie,
boring.
which is, yeah, because it was the Romulan Senate and a person basically setting down a device and then conveniently leaving the room and
You
killing
can do
everybody.
intrigue in a very interesting way, but this was not that. It was dull.
Yeah, it
And
was
that
really bad.
the system of killing everybody in that council chamber. It's pretty gruesome, and
Hmm.
it's also mirrors the final weapon that we get to see at the end of the movie at the climax.
Yes.
And it's pretty nasty because it basically calcifies your skin so you become like stone, and so you fall over and you crumble into dust. It's
Yep.
pretty nasty.
Yeah. It's most unpleasant. Kind of turns you into charcoal almost.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's obviously there's some revolt going on. Um but oops, hit my microphone. Sorry about that. Sorry everyone that had to hear that. But
Blunk.
there basically the Enterprise has to go.
Yep.
And of course we're at the Enterprise E now because we all know what happened to the D, and no, it was not Deanna's fault. And stop
Mm.
fucking saying that. I will come up there and I will beat you myself.
She
So
managed to land just the saucer section, right?
without killing
Without
anyone.
killing anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Who else can do that?
Duh. God.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, and one more thing before we start in on really the meat of this movie. I hate the bridge of the Enterprise E. I hate it.
It's busy.
It's just these these areas like where the where ops and the pilots sit. It's like they're in this cubicle. I
Yeah.
hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it so much.
Yeah, everybody's in their own little individual section and it's busy.
Yeah, I don't like it. And, just the one captain's chair in the middle,
Yeah.
and then more cubicles for like weapons and the first officer and shit. And
Yeah.
I hate it. Don't like it at all.
No, it's very unpleasant.
It's very
As a
boxy.
set design it goes, it's not pleasing to the eye.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, let's finally check in on our main dudes. Main dudes. We've
Our
got
main dudes?
the Riemann. It's not Chancellor. I hate when I forget words like this. Viceroy.
Right.
There it is. There it
Viceroy,
is.
right.
There it is. I have him as a character in Star Trek Timelines,
Oh, cool.
the mobile game. I also have what was her name? Denatra, who was a Romulan
Right.
that helps out later. And of course I've got a Shinzon as well.
Yep.
But yeah, so this ship they've got, this ship, right?
The ship, right?
This ship, 52 disruptor banks, 52 disruptor banks. Where do you put 52 disruptor banks on a ship?
I don't know, you like playing cards?
Yeah, but it's just like, how do you power 52
I don't know.
disruptor banks? That just seems like an obscene
They did
amount.
say it was a predator, as ships
Yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah. Isn't it called what? The scimitar? Is that it?
Mm,
I can't remember. Did I write this down? Let's see. No.
no.
Yes, no. Yes, no, no, no. Yeah, I don't I want to say it's the scimitar, but I could be wrong. I could be confusing that
The
with
scimitar's first introduction.
Oh, thank you. Okay, it is the scimitar.
Enterprise E to defeat the scimitar. So yeah, the scimitar is the ship. It is a
Yeah.
heavy armed Riemann warbird.
And until last week's Unready Room, I had completely forgotten that Ron Perlman was the Viceroy.
Yep.
Dude can do anything. And he's obviously comfortable being under makeup because the first time I remember seeing him was the television series Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, hell yeah.
And he was always under makeup for that one too. But he's one of those people that he can play any kind of character and make me believe he's who he is, you know?
And
So
he really likes karaoke and he's super liberal in his politics.
yep, and he does not mince words when it comes to that.
No, no. He's got that
So,
man of the people vibe.
yep.
Um, He's one of
Um,
those like working class, working actor kind of guys,
yeah, I really like
Harrison
him.
Ford type.
Yeah. I really just really like him. So it was nice to see him again, even if he's under all of that Riemann makeup.
Yep.
So it's funny how they make all the Riemanns look like Nosferatu.
Yeah, they really did have this vampiric thing to them, didn't they?
They
And didn't
did.
they say that what they lived on the dark side of their planet because it didn't rotate or something weird like that?
Yeah, there's one side of the planet that's always facing the sun and it's impossible to live there. So they
How
have to live on
does
the dark side.
gravity work on a planet with no rotation? I know gravity is attraction to bodies, but you think rotation would have something to do with it too, for like centripetal and centrifugal force and all that sort of thing. So I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, they are also suspiciously close to the next planet. It
Yeah,
seems
that
like.
yes. And you told me maybe it's just the model that tells us that, because I was thinking
Yeah,
anytime those planets pass each other, the gravitational forces between both of them, there's going to be massive earthquakes, there's going to be volcanic activity.
yeah,
So if they're that close to each other as the model would suggest, yeah, I don't think either planet would be livable.
yeah. But I'm sure that it's just a trick of distance and the size of the planets, etc. That there's probably millions of miles between the
Yeah.
two.
Yeah, well, you look at how, big our moon is
Mm,
and how much it affects our tides.
hmm.
Can you imagine something as massive as the Earth coming within about the same distance?
Yeah, it would be very bad.
Yeah.
Be very
So
bad.
I'm hoping you're correct and it was just an off-scale model as opposed to them actually being that close to one another, because that's
Hmm.
absurd.
Yeah. So we're finally getting introduced to Shinzon, really.
Tom Hardy,
Tom Hardy, my first Tom
baby Tom
Hardy
Hardy.
experience.
Yeah,
He's
super,
so
super young.
young.
He's
He's
still
so
got that same
young.
nose.
I know. And I really like Tom Hardy.
I do too.
I can't really fault his performance in
He's
this
great in
movie.
this.
I
Oh my
think he's
God, he's one of
fantastic.
the best things in this.
Yeah, he's doing exactly was what he's been instructed to do, but
Yeah.
he's making it his own at the same time.
Yeah, he owns this role.
He absolutely owns
Chewing the
it.
scenery, he's performing a young, brash Picard type because, he
Hmm.
is a clone.
Yeah, we find that out pretty early too, but
Yeah.
I love that while we were watching this, you came up with a very good point that I had already been thinking about, and how similar, apart from the cloning, the stories of Shinzon and Bane are. And of course, Tom Hardy
Oh yeah.
played Bane.
There's practically the same speeches because he grew up in a prison, was befriended by the Remans. He was adapted to the darkness. He didn't see the sun until he was a man. There's, I swear, like, Nolan saw this movie and saw this performance, and that's why he chose Tom Hardy to play Bane, because they're the same character. This is Bane without the mask.
Well, and Bane's not a clone, as far as I know.
Yeah, he's just got that debilitating, painful condition that requires him to take
Yeah.
that drug the
Sh
whole time, basically
Shalef
morphine.
syndrome. Yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't like to be
Well,
touched, etc.
yeah.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is we still have no idea for sure why this clone was created, but
Well,
especially when they
they,
talk about it a bit later.
yeah.
But at this point, we don't know for sure why
White. Right,
he's a
right.
clone.
Yeah, and it's
Um,
fun how they introduce him backlit so you don't see the face. He's kind of a silhouette for a long time. And he
mhm,
looks kind of scrawny in this with those big shouldered things.
yes.
Because you think of Tom Hardy being a big guy considering some of the roles he's in. But in this,
Mm,
he's just a lithe little guy.
yeah, well, and that's the thing. It's all I know that he's been able to change his body
Right.
um
'Cause,
through
yeah, you see him in
is
Bronson or something,
yeah,
or as Bane, and he looks huge.
yeah.
Then you see him in
And
this, and he just looks like a little young Jean-Luc.
well, and the reality is this that Tom Hardy is 5'9" and I
Yeah,
am 5'9". And so it's
right.
weird to me that I'm looking at this guy that looks like he should be 6'4" and
Mhm.
thinking, this is the guy who's the same height as I am.
I say a lot of actors are short. There's
Mm.
Tom Cruise, for instance, but every once in a while you get somebody like a Hugh Jackman that's playing Wolverine and he's over 6 foot tall.
And Ryan Reynolds is really tall too.
Yeah,
So
every once in a while you'll get these tall guys, but often they're short guys,
yeah. So yeah,
short kings.
we're gonna have some problems with B4. He's basically being taken over and
Hmm.
used to do bad things on the Enterprise.
Yeah, they download Data's memories into B4, seeing if that would assist B4 in functioning more effectively or efficiently.
Yeah. But that's not why B4 is there. B4
No.
is there as a tool, as a
Yep.
spy, so to speak.
Yeah, to
So,
get all the locations of all the Federation ships, I think is one of the things.
yeah.
Yeah. So troop
And
deployment kind of deal.
yeah, and this is where we first hear what this new weapon is, and it's based on Thaleron radiation,
Yeah,
which
and
sounds horrible.
they should have done another couple of passes on this script.
Hmm.
Because there's some things that are said that when you think take place later, you left scratching your head going, hey, wait a minute. That a single particle can wipe out the entire ship, I
Mm.
think is what Crusher says.
Hmm.
And then later on, they're fighting right in the middle of it. And you're like,
Yeah.
okay, what's going on here?
It's like when they're basically mixing the Thaleron radiation uh, into the form that they need it to be in order to fire it at the
Right.
Enterprise E and basically disintegrate it. And I'm just like,
And there doesn't seem to be a containment chamber or anything.
no,
It's just out in the
there is
open,
not.
this weird, these green particles. You're like,
Yeah.
okay, just one single one of those particles
Hmm.
is enough to wipe out an entire ship,
Yeah.
full of people.
There's
And
definitely
they're
no force field.
fighting in the middle of it?
Yeah,
It doesn't work.
there's no force field on it, and we
Right.
know this
Hmm.
because of how the climax happens.
Right. Right.
So, which we'll get to eventually.
Oh,
We can
yeah.
just do whatever we want. But hey, this is the first time we've ever really seen Riker and Troy almost have sex.
Yeah, we get a sex scene in this. It kind of, I know you were like, whoa, wait a minute.
It's like, whoa, sex in Star Trek? Wow.
Yeah, it gets kind of heated, but then the tone changes rather abruptly when Shinzon using the Viceroy's psychic abilities infiltrates Troy's mind and
Yeah,
yeah, is messing with her. So we get that violation, which is unpleasant to say the
very
least.
unpleasant. I feel like it shouldn't have been part of the
Yeah.
story. I think they could have done this
Yeah,
story without that.
I understand he's a villain, but when you've already, I assume, taken flack from a similar episode of the television series, why would you go back to that?
Yeah, well, Rick Berman was a producer.
Yeah, that's true. I did see that and was like, oh, that's why that's in there.
Yeah. This is where things get a little foggy with me because I wrote down, "Yay, Data, Vulcan neck pinch." And I can't remember why Data was doing that.
Why,
Did they have
no,
people get on board? I can't
yeah, they had a boarding party. It goes back
remember.
and forth. It's kind of
Yeah.
like Crimson Tide in that way, where they're on the ship, they're off the ship, they're on the ship, they're off the ship. But they did have to infiltrate the ship to go after this particle weapon and destroy it.
Yeah, but this was way before that.
Yeah, but where he neck pinched somebody, I don't know, because they had Data later pretending to be B4 to infiltrate the ship
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
to
Well, that's the
take
thing.
Picard as prisoner, but not really.
Yeah,
They
it
needed
was
Picard
yeah.
because the cloning thing, I guess we
Hmm.
could get into that, why
Yeah.
Shinzon was cloned.
Let's do
Is
that.
so that he could replace Picard. And because he'd have to be older, his genetics are created for him to become older. But since their plan never took effect, they never initiated that. So his body's starting to, I guess, decay. And he needs Picard to, I guess, harvest some of his anatomy so that he will no longer suffer this condition.
Yeah, because it's very painful as he's degenerating,
Right.
as
So,
it would
yeah.
be. It would be very painful.
So he needs a living Picard, or at least he needs Picard's body to, I don't know, harvest his life energy or something.
Yeah. They've also got a shit ton of Scorpion fighters on this ship.
Mm.
It's a lot of Scorpion
Yeah, they're
fighters.
tiny little guys that can
Yeah.
drive down a hallway.
Yeah, and that makes them dangerous because harder to hit.
Yeah.
Fast
Little,
and hard to hit.
little tiny one man or
Mhm.
two person
Yeah. And
vessels.
and there's this scene where you see the Scorpion scimitar, whatever the fuck it's called.
Oh,
Scimitar.
this main
Yeah.
ship.
The scimitar moving away, and there's like these little smoke trails coming out of the nacelles. What the fuck is that about? What the
I
hell?
don't know. I don't Are they
I
venting
wrote,
plasma?
no, they're just moving away. They weren't doing anything.
Oh,
And there's just these little vapor trails coming out of the nacelle. And I'm like, no,
they're
no.
chemtrails. It's a conspiracy
That's
trying to
it.
turn the universe gay.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah,
That's entirely it.
that was my
Um,
Alex Jones impression.
yeah, Shinzon is trying to turn the universe gay.
Except I'm not turning red-faced with anger.
Yep. Yeah, so yeah, due to the temporal RNA sequencing, because they managed to get a sample of Shinzon's whatever.
Talk about
That's
RNA
how
sequencing. We're back to conspiracy
temporal
theories.
temporal RNA sequencing.
Okay,
The whole thing about him being able to age quickly in a short
right.
amount of time in order to replace Picard.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the thing is that this whole thing, the whole scimitar thing and the Viceroy and all of this is a rogue operation. The
Yep.
Romulan government does not fucking want this. They
Nope.
do not want to go to war with the Federation. They do not want to take over Earth, at least not right now.
Nope.
And yeah, so there are some Romulans, especially Denatra. She tries to cozy up to Shinzon and it does not work.
Nope.
And
She
that's
tries this little seduction ploy, and yeah, that
yeah.
does not go well.
But the thing is that she gets information. She does this
Hmm.
so that she can try to feel out what's going on. She's very smart.
I know she's
She's very
basically
smart.
standing on the other side of a door that might as well be a window,
Mm-hmm.
looking directly at them while Shinzon has one of his little fits of pain.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like,
Yeah.
hmm. And it's like,
She's
I mean, we might as well put a spotlight on her spying on them. And
yeah.
very clearly, I observed this thing happening kind of scene. It was weirdly staged.
It was, and I don't know if it's just because of hubris that Shinzon and the Viceroy don't really think of her as being a threat of any kind.
Well, they're a man, she's a woman. I could see,
Mm,
how certain people would just assume that.
yeah, even in 2002.
Yep.
Or in the year 23. So 23 for her,
Yeah, well,
they
Shinzan
actually.
does say, you will have, be a part of my coup, I guess, if
Mm,
you spy on this other fellow who seems to be voicing his doubts as
yeah.
to Shinzan's actions.
Yeah, well, let's be honest about this whole plot. It's fucking insane.
It is. It's dumb.
It's so dumb, it's fucking insane, and it's basically the machinations of this spoiled little boy. I mean,
Yeah,
granted,
and
he grew up hard, but now he's unhinged.
I'm not sure why the Remans are involved.
Oh, because they were in the prison camp together.
Right.
You see, he and the Viceroy were in the prison camp together, and the Viceroy took him under his wing and kept him alive.
But
And
it's not like the Federation imprisoned them. So why are they
no,
fighting
no, it was the
as
Romulans that imprisoned
right?
them.
So it's just odd that they're following Shinzen's plan when there's no reason to.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing is that he's got this weapon now, and
Yep.
he can obliterate you in a very painful way.
And
And
this, of course, is to create a war between the Federation and Romulus,
well,
and the Remans will just stand back and watch.
yeah, basically he's wanting to take over the Federation and
Yeah,
become like supreme ruler or something. I don't know if he even really thought that far
I
ahead.
don't even think he wants that because from what he said, he's going to use this weapon to destroy each of the ships, like one by one, because that's why he wanted the locations of them. Not that the first time you attack one, the rest of them will scramble to other locations, and
Yeah,
then he'll have to find those locations in some other way.
yeah.
So
I don't know.
the
It's
plan
it's
doesn't make any sense.
it doesn't, and him being so hell bent on destroying Earth
Yeah.
and such, that makes no sense
No,
either.
he should have resentment towards Romulus.
Yeah.
He should have no qualms at all about Earth. It's just because he shares the genetics of Picard that I guess he's jealous of Picard's life. And that
Yeah.
I mean, they're trying to do a nature nurture thing, and they do that a little bit with the mirroring between B4 and Data. Is that even though they're the same kind of android, that they're distinct personalities with distinct abilities, and the same could be said of Shinzon and Jean-Luc.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. He basically taunts Jean-Luc and says, if you had grown up like I did, you would be doing exactly what I am doing. And that gives Picard pause. And
Yep.
he actually thinks that that's the truth. And I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake. I thought you were smarter than this,
Well,
Jean-Luc.
we've had glimpses into Picard's past, and he was
Hmm.
a bad boy.
Yeah, he
There's his
was
whole
very arrogant
artificial heart situation where he would get into fights at these bars and stuff. He got stabbed,
by a
and he
Nausicaan.
could have died,
Hmm.
but didn't. And that near-death experience kind of put his head in order, and he decided to clean up his act.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Well, he was still very smart and a bit of a ladies' man from what we can gather.
yeah.
But because there is that episode where Q makes Picard uh able to take a different path
Hmm.
and not get stabbed by a Nausicaan and see how his life turns out, and it's boring. And he's just this low-level science officer.
Yeah, I don't like that episode.
I don't either.
Because
I don't either.
it's it's classist.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, why can't he live honorably in a low rank position on a starship?
Yeah,
Why
why
couldn't
is
he
that a
be
bad
like a
place?
science officer, or working in engineering or something, and
Hmm.
live a satisfying life? Why does he have to be the captain?
Exactly why I don't like that episode.
Yeah, it's like you can live honorably and respectfully. You don't have to be the main character syndrome kind of person. But I
Yeah.
guess the writers of Star Trek don't see it that way, or Star Trek Next Generation of the time.
Hmm. Hmm. Anyway, the whole thing with Shinzon, obviously we know he's unhinged, but he's so hot and cold throughout this movie because of his unhingement. It's like, come here, come here, come here, get away, get away, get away, get away.
Yeah,
Eh,
he's all over the place.
he really is. And that's the thing though, because he's dying. He's dying.
Right.
His cells are breaking down because this aging sequence was never activated and he can't stabilize his body. So it's just yeah. And there's one, and a shout out to Dan for this. There's this great scene where Shinzon brings Picard aboard, basically kidnaps him, and Picard's all angry. Why am I here? And he's like, I was lonely. Just the way he delivers the line.
Yep.
And Dan was talking about that earlier today. And man, he does a great angry Picard. Let me tell you, I had no idea, Dan. Way to go.
Yep. Nice.
So yeah, that's a great line reading. And I really do enjoy the talks between Shinzon and Picard, and there are more than, a couple.
Well, I'm sure
Um,
they're theatrically trained British actors getting to go one-on-one with one another, and
yeah.
that would be amazing between the two of them. And I think there'd be a great deal of respect between, this veteran actor and this person coming up and just starting his cinema experience. I mean, this is probably what, his second or third film, maybe.
Yeah, thereabouts. I mean,
Yeah.
he was so young.
So,
Oh,
so, so young, and Tom Hardy's done a lot since then.
good God,
And
he
even
has.
having starring roles aside from, I mean, yeah, he does projects like Venom and that kind of thing, but to be in stuff like Inception and The Revenant, and he's in some pretty major films.
Tinker Tailor
Uh,
Soldier
Yeah, I was
Spy,
about to say that one.
Fury
So,
Road, Mad Max Fury Road.
right, right, right. I mean, he plays Mad Max. He plays him pretty well. So,
Yeah,
yeah, it's just um, uh, fantastic.
he can do anything.
Yep.
He's another person who can just do anything. He can become anyone and
Mhm.
make you believe it. You just don't
Yep.
even think about how you're suspending your disbelief. You're like, yes, this is the character. Yes.
he
It's
does
not,
go
we're not watching Tom
into
Hardy. It's just the
strange
character.
voices a lot.
He does, yes.
That's like a choice he makes as an actor that I'm not always on board with. But as per level of performance and other choices he makes, he's great. He's actually one of my favorite actors.
Yep, I agree. I agree.
And he's good in this. Like I said, it's just the material he's given doesn't make much sense. The
Mm-mm.
motivation behind the character is all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
His villainy is like melodramatic levels. He's like,
Caricature.
yeah,
Yeah.
tie somebody to the railroad tracks kind of villainy.
Mm-hmm.
It's just over the top, but what he does with it's solid. It's a solid performance. I
Absolutely.
don't take issue with Tom Hardy in this. I take issue with the way it's written or the
I
way,
agree.
it's crafted and executed. Well, not executed because he executes it well. It's just
Yeah.
the way it's directed, I guess is the way to put it.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people going back and forth between these two ships, and I'm just like, what, does shields mean nothing anymore?
Apparently not.
Apparently not. And but things do escalate. And basically Shinzon's got to get Picard back so that he can stabilize himself.
Right.
And so that's how many times does Picard go over to the ships? Like three, four
It's like
different times
two,
throughout the
three
movie.
times.
Yeah,
It's very Crimson
at
Peak
least three.
or
At least
Crimson
three.
Peak. I keep saying Crimson Peak. I'm the other one, Crimson Tide.
Yeah.
The submarine movie where it kept going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, goes like back and forth too many times.
I honestly, um, I know that I've seen Crimson Tide and I can't remember
Yep.
it at all.
Right.
That's how much of an impact it had on me, or lack of.
Yeah.
So, and he's so angry now. He's just gonna destroy the Enterprise. He's just fucking had it.
Yep.
And they blow out the fucking front of the ship. View screen gone.
Yeah,
And I feel like it takes way too long for that emergency force field to
yep.
get into place.
Yep. It does. Because somebody gets sucked out into space.
Yeah, more than
The
one.
guy with the chin.
The guy with the chin, yeah.
Yeah, it looked like a
They
Bruce Campbell type.
definitely had to focus on him a lot, as if, hey, he's not
Yep.
going to have a lot of lines, but
It's like, here, who's this guy at the helm that we don't know? And oh, he just went
oh,
out the airlock. Never
mm-hmm.
mind.
Yep, just like the alien.
Yeah.
Blow him out the airlock. Except it wasn't out the airlock, it was just out the front. And it's interesting because it's one of those this is actually an amazing scene because the visual of it is done really, really well. I still think it's ridiculous that it took that long for the force field to come up. I have a problem with that.
Yep. It's
But
it's a
ev
pretty amazing battle.
yeah, but the look on everyone's faces
Yep.
when it happens,
Yeah, when their
and how
shields keep depleting.
stunned, yeah, how
Yeah.
stunned they are, how and they're realizing they are in deep shit. They are in
Hmm.
deep shit, and there is no help coming from Starfleet. This is all on them.
And just a
And
shout out to Captain Pikachu, as if they had just seatbelts.
yeah,
You wouldn't have
seatbelts?
somebody sucked out the front of the ship.
No,
If they were strapped into the seat, they wouldn't have been sucked out.
yeah, and you should be strapped in during a battle.
Yeah.
Absolutely should.
As often during starship battles where get thrown out of their chairs,
Hmm.
seatbelts, strap in.
Yeah, yeah. Guess what had seatbelts in Star Trek? The Franklin in Star
Oh,
Trek Beyond, when they were
nice.
leaving that planet and going back to the space station place that I can't remember the name of right now.
Mm,
And yeah, they had seatbelts. They had seatbelts,
right.
and they needed them because, when they did when they finally shook that ship loose, they were basically doing a nosedive, and everybody would have just fallen onto the view screen. But no, they had seatbelts and they worked. Seatbelts should be a thing on all Federation starships. So,
Oh yeah.
but yeah, there's a couple of other things that I really like. Dinatra contacts Picard
Right.
and well, the Enterprise, and basically says, hey, enemy of my enemy is my friend, sort of thing. And basically explains, I think is she the one that explains the whole Thalon
Probably because
Thaleron
their
radiation. There it
folks
is.
got killed by it, so she knows what
Yeah.
weapons on that ship.
Yeah. And so she's going to help
Yeah,
because this is not what the Romulans want at all. This
right.
is completely rogue. And she's a stand-up Romulan. She is not looking to backstab anybody. She is really just trying to save her race,
Yeah, the
basically.
Romulans join up in the starship battle, but their ships get disabled.
Yeah.
And then
Some
the
of them destroyed.
Enterprise gets disabled, and they can't access phasers or their torpedoes or anything. So they have one
Or
option, and that
Ram.
is to ram them because it takes, what, 7 minutes for this scimitar to launch its big weapon, which
Mm-hmm.
is a hell of a ticking clock.
Well, you got to do this mixture first, you
Yeah.
know? It's like, why does it take seven
Why not
minutes
have it
for this?
pre-mixed?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe it's too dangerous.
Ah, that's
And,
true.
they don't really talk about that. But I'm going to go with, in my head canon, that it's too dangerous
Right.
to be in its mixed form. It's too volatile. So too easy to have problems. And of course, Picard's gonna go over there and he's gonna fucking take care of this. He's gonna sacrifice his life. He has to fight Shinzon,
Hmm.
and Shinzon is younger, but he's also dying, and so he Picard actually gets him by with impalement. Impalement.
Yeah, and while he's impaled, Shinzan even pulls to get even closer to kind of talk in Picard's face in a very Susie Izzard kind of phalanx kind of way.
I was laughing in my head. I was laughing at that because I immediately
It's
pictured
like
that.
the short sword versus the long spear.
Yeah.
Now, how do you get somebody off your long spear once you've run them through? Have to
Gotta
have like a
wiggle them
windshield
off the
wiper. You have
end.
to wiggle them off. Get off my spear. Ugh.
Yeah, it's like, ah, ha, you've impaled me, but guess what? Shoo, shoo,
Hold on, I'm about
shoo.
halfway through. Up, I dropped my sword. I got to go back. Shoot,
Yeah,
shoot,
that I
shoot.
couldn't stop. I that was just it was hilarious to me in my head because I was thinking the same thing you were thinking,
Hmm.
and I was like, this is a dramatic moment. Do not laugh." Just I'm laughing in my head.
And all during this 7 minutes, the I guess the scimitar's blossoming like a flower, opening up
Hmm.
its base to launch this weapon. That it's way too convoluted, way too long.
Hmm.
The ticking clock doesn't quite work because it's such a long ass time. I don't feel any threat.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that I do feel the threat because the Enterprise is all but done for.
Right.
They really have nothing left, so they think. But yeah, so Picard is just resigned to he's got to destroy this Thalaron radiation weapon. But guess what? Guess what?
Yep.
Data shows up and uses a device that they did show us very obviously earlier in the movie so that we wouldn't forget or be surprised at this little site-to-site transporter that
Right.
thing that Data has on him,
Yeah, that
inside
it
him.
only works for one person. Yeah,
Hmm.
that they were going to
And
use before, and Jean-Luc is like, nope, leave no person behind, kind of thing.
yep. And Data doesn't give him a choice. Data slaps that on him, activates it, and Picard is back on the Enterprise E. But he's basically teleported or transported into the back of the bridge, so no one knows he's there. So, and Data just fires his phaser into that, that column of
Part
Thalaron
particulates.
radiation,
Yep.
particulates and whatnot, and it's just boom, and everything is
Kaboom!
just
Blows up the scimitar.
tiny, 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 tiny bits, tiny
Yep.
bits. And they all think, oh my God, we've lost Picard. And then they turn around, I think it was Deanna who turns around and is just like,
Probably because she
everybody's just,
sensed him being a
yeah.
betazoid.
And then of course they're like Data, and they know now that Data gave his life for
Hmm.
for this. to stop this ship. And they
So
get a nice communication with Denatra, who says that they've made a friend in Romulans at
which will lead
Romulan.
into the Picard television series. So
Yes,
that's
they've
a
made a
nice little link
friend.
there. Yeah.
Yep. And yeah. Of course they were the Enterprise was gonna self-destruct. They were gonna ram it and self-destruct, and auto-destruct was
Yep.
offline. So that's why Picard did what he did, and Data's like, not on my watch, buddy. I'm,
Yeah.
I'm not letting this. I'm not letting you take the fall for this. So yeah, and uh, the very final scene with Picard talking to B4
Right.
and trying to explain what happened, and B4 not really getting it, and Picard, still hoping that all of Data's memories might at some point uh kind of gel with his positronic matrix, and he might have some knowledge, might progress as an android. But as we all know from season 1 of Picard, we find out that B4 just gets disassembled and shoved into a drawer at the Daystrom
The
Institute.
Daystrom Institute. Though we do get before singing a little bit of Blue Skies.
We do. We do. And that breaks my heart because, when that happened, I'm just like, wait, what? What? Data's dead? What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, because it's unlikely the radiation would affect him because he's an android.
Mm,
But being blown up into pieces, that's a
yeah.
whole other story.
He can't come back from that, and yet somehow he does.
Yep. Mystery of
So,
mysteries.
yeah, but yeah. So that's I know that there's a lot of stuff we didn't talk over, but honestly, most of it was boring. All of it just
Yeah, we
like
skipped a lot of the
this was
boring
boring, this was
stuff.
boring.
Yeah,
But
there's a lot of comedy they're trying to do with Worf that just doesn't work, so
it
I kind of
doesn't.
ignored it.
Yeah,
Like
it's
like the
unmemorable.
hand coming, the B-Force hand coming up and grabbing his ankle.
Hmm.
A bit of comedy there, and it just didn't
Yeah.
play, so not really
I
worth mentioning.
I think a lot of the visuals were really, really, really well done, especially the B4 and Data interactions.
Yeah, the way they've mirrored B4 and Data was really good. We disagree about the ramming sequence. I didn't
I
like it.
really
You
liked it.
did.
Mm.
Yeah.
There were, because yeah, there were a lot of I mean, the Enterprise already looked like it had a bite taken out of its saucer
Right.
section, but
Oh yeah.
then they rammed the scimitar, and
Hmm.
when they when the scimitar started to pull back, and you shouldn't be hearing any sounds. There's no sounds in space. It's a vacuum. There is no sound. You have to have atmosphere for sound.
And the
So, but
look
I'll let it
on
go. I just let it
Shinzon's
go.
face too, and he's like
Mhm.
evasive maneuvers, but by then it's too late.
Yeah, yeah. So honestly, didn't hate this.
Yeah, as much as we've been, just hitting it with criticism after criticism, I didn't hate it either because at least it's mostly interesting. It's engaging. There's good
Mhm.
performances.
Yes, it's worth it
Um,
for Tom Hardy alone.
the action is mostly good. I mean, the starship battle's good. The
Mm,
opening car chasey thing I could have done without.
yeah, the
Um,
Scorpion fighter going all through the Romulan
yeah,
ship, or
that was
through the
fun.
scimitar, very cool.
Yeah, character moments. There is a little bit of TV actors versus film actors that's jarring.
Mm.
And yeah, when you have like Tom Hardy in one scene and Worf in another, and it just doesn't quite meld.
Yeah, well, I don't think that that's Michael Dorn's fault,
Right.
as
Could be a
much as
direction
it's
issue
the fault
again.
of, I think it's
Yeah.
direction and writing.
Yeah.
I don't think it's Michael Dorn's fault at all because,
Yeah.
we've seen him in the other movies, and I didn't feel that way.
Right.
So, but yeah, out of the 4 Next Generation movies, and this is going to shock everyone, I would count it as number 2.
Number two.
Yeah,
Hmm.
because it goes First
Oh,
Contact. First
right.
Contact is the
Yes.
best.
Yeah, I
I
could
would
see
put
that.
I would put Nemesis as number 2, Generations is number 3. I'll explain that why in a minute. And
And
fucking
Insurrection
Insurrection can burn in
at the
hell.
very, yeah, Insurrection's terrible.
I hate it so
Insurrection is
much.
worse than this.
Yeah,
So
it
yeah,
makes no
I'm
sense.
not a big fan of Generations either. The
Mhm.
Nexus makes no sense.
Also, they sent out the Next Generation on training wheels. That did not need
Yeah,
to be done. They had 7 years of episodes
Mhm.
to build up these characters, and you did not need to bring TOS into this.
Yeah, they already passed on the baton during the television series. They didn't have to do it for the movies.
Agree.
Uh,
And that's what made me so angry.
and Star Trek Generation could have had its own debut film and be
Yeah.
fine.
The only
It didn't
yeah.
need original series to carry it.
The only thing that I liked about TOS being involved was Alan Ruck. as
Mm,
the Captain of what is
yeah,
it, the Enterprise B at this point? And not everything is there yet. Some of it's coming on Tuesday.
yeah.
That's
Alan Ruck uh, never disappoints. I
I
mean, even
love
in
him.
Succession, Alan Ruck is great. So,
He's a great actor. He
yeah,
is another one of those people that is a chameleon.
yeah.
And despite having a
It's
very distinctive look, he can play any character.
probably the best thing out of Ferris Bueller.
Yeah, because
Because
Dave
I
and I
hate that movie,
agree.
but
Yeah,
Alan Ruck,
same.
I love in that movie.
Yeah. I was identifying with Alan Ruck through that
Yeah.
entire movie. He was the
Yeah,
only
being
part of it
annoyed
that I
by your
enjoyed.
psychopathic friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's anyway. So yeah, just going by how I felt about the other movies, Nemesis slots in at number 2 for me because
Yeah,
I
I can
mean,
see
if for
that.
no other reason, Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy's performance is great. It's got some interesting ideas. It's just
Poorly
poorly
executed.
arranged and executed.
Mhm.
The plan makes no sense. I don't understand
Mhm.
the motivation behind any of it.
Yep.
And the ticking clock at the end is just there. I
Annoying.
didn't feel the stakes. So
And why does it always have to come down to the last second? I hate
yeah,
that. I hate
yeah, it
that.
is
That's so
pretty funny.
unrealistic.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
a few couple of seconds, if not the very last one.
so still not a waste of my time.
No, so yeah, I'd say I'd probably rank it number 2 as well, and because I like First Contact too, but I do have issues with it. And I think when I was talking about the Borg Queen in the previous episode, I was confusing moments of this with First Contact
Mm-hmm.
because that's the one with the Borg in it. This has no Borg.
No Borg.
So yeah,
All
the
Remans
Borg
and
Queen
Romulans.
action is always, I mean, love the actor, don't like the character or why it's there.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, uh, Star Trek Nemesis ranks 2 as the next generation movies. I have to agree with you. I think my ranking is, oh no, I really don't like Generations.
So,
I
do
might put
you
Insurrection before Generations just
really?
yeah, because I
Ugh.
really dislike Generations. I
Mm.
mean, even with Malcolm McDowell's great in it, but the Nexus is dumb.
But
Kirk
Lursa
dying
and
on a bridge is
B'Etor.
dumb. The weird Christmas thing with the kids thing with Picard, and
Yeah,
I
that's
don't think
in
we get
this
enough with
dream.
the rest of the Generations crew.
Yeah.
They kind of really get lost in it. I just don't like Generations, but Insurrection's so bad too. Oof. They're really racing towards the bottom for me, the two of those.
They're tied for last place,
Yeah,
is what
there's
you're
a
saying.
huge gap. I mean, there's a pretty significant gap between First Contact and Nemesis, but between
Mm-hmm.
Nemesis and Generations and Insurrection, it's like a fathoms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, there we are.
Yeah, there we are.
Probably
Nemesis, not the worst Star Trek movie, not even close. Not
actually
even
enjoyed it.
within the Star Trek Generation cast is it the worst one.
Nope. Nope.
Insurrection is bad.
Mm-hmm.
Generations, kind of dull.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Insurrection, I also felt was dull.
Yeah. I mean, there's some fun stuff with the youth, but there's a weird mix of tone with Insurrection. Like they
Mhm.
tried to punch up the script to make it funnier, especially around Data, and it
Yeah.
just doesn't work. It's jarring.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I thought somebody else, actually, I think a few people on Twitter brought up the whole, it's like the anti Wrath of Khan because of the whole needs of the many.
Mm.
And here you have the needs of the few being put above the needs of the many because of, the source of healing that this planet can bestow,
Mm-hmm.
and that they're keeping it to themselves. And
Yeah. Well, we're
and we could
eventually
get
gonna,
into it when we do the movie itself, but
yeah.
yeah, which I'm not entirely looking forward to, but it's fun to discuss these. And it gives us, I guess, a reason enough, but Into Darkness is going to be a hell of a slog because I can get about halfway through the film before I'm considering putting a bag on my head and then
Well,
taping it shut.
let me explain my first viewing of Into Darkness. I would this is the same way that I watched Batman versus Superman. Dawn of Justice. Same feelings for both of them. I started watching Into Darkness, and 15 minutes later, I'm like, I cannot do this, right? I can't do any more of this. And I turned it off. It took me several sittings and like 3 weeks to actually get through that movie. And I was absolutely furious through most of it. There was so little that I liked in that film. So very little
So
that I
bad.
liked. It's just there was so much that I'm just like,
It's
what the
just,
hell are you doing? And
ugh.
I was already soured on it because I'm like, why? Okay, you do, Star Trek 2009, okay? You do this to break away from canon, and then what do you do with your next film? You fucking go back to canon? You could have told any fucking story, but you chose this, and then you put a white guy in. That's con.
Yeah, the hubris, the sheer fucking hubris
The sheer fucking hubris.
of with your second Kelvin film of mirroring Wrath of Khan, which is like the most beloved of the Star Trek movies.
That's not my
It's
most beloved.
yeah, it's not your most beloved, but people do like it.
Oh, I know. I know.
It's just, why would you do that? Why would you set yourself up for such a horrible fall when you could have done anything if you just
Mhm.
got some decent writers in there and did a fun, interesting Star Trek movie? But no, you had to mirror Khan because it's the second one.
Stupid.
Yeah,
Stupid.
it's
What they
stupid. When
should have
Khan
done.
didn't mean anything to anybody, and it took Spock to go, oh, this is a bad guy. How do you know that? This is a whole other universe, Spock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Whole
Events
other
have
timeline.
changed dramatically. What are you saying that Khan is going to be a bad guy in this universe? It's not
Yeah, it's
necessarily true.
it's dumb.
In fact, with regards to how everybody's behaving around him, Khan actually seems like the good guy.
Mm-hmm. He actually becomes a sympathetic character,
Yeah,
especially when he's doing his monologue in the brig.
right.
And I give Benedict Cumberbatch credit for that. But again,
Yeah,
just
thankless
having
role too.
Khan being a white guy,
Yeah,
no.
yeah,
Bad,
no, it's
bad, bad,
bad,
bad
bad, bad,
choice.
bad, bad.
Bad. And
Was there
yeah,
character Collins or something that somebody was saying he could have been, and it would have been
I
a
don't
more
know.
interesting movie? I don't
Yeah,
know who that is, but I guess it's
I
somebody
don't
from the
remember.
original series that if they had him be, it would have been more interesting and it would have been whitewashing a character of color.
Yeah, I don't remember, but in any case, yeah. And then they come back with Star Trek Beyond, and that's the only one I actually like of that trio
Right. No,
because it
it's
was it was a different story. It wasn't anything that had been done before in any Star Trek that came before, and I just appreciate it for that. Yes, it's got its problems, but it's the only one of them that I enjoyed because 2009 we saw in the theater, and it was my birthday too. It was my birthday, and I was actually excited. And then when we got about a half an hour into the movie, I'm like, oh God, it's not going to get better than this, is it?
no, no.
It's not going to get better than this.
It's so Abrams. Because
And I'm like,
Abrams' thing is that he wants to do something cool and
mm,
it's interesting in the moment. But as soon as the moment is over, you'll look back at it and go, what the hell just happened to why?
yeah.
And there's no explanation.
Hmm.
Like how Kirk gets abandoned onto this planet. He's immediately chased by a monster, runs into a cave and bumps into Spock.
Hmm.
What's the likelihood of all those things happening?
Very, very, very slim.
And they're done there just so the story moves forward, but there's nothing motivating those things happening.
Yes, the
Um,
characters are a slave to the plot rather than the plot serving the characters.
yeah, Matt Stone and Trey Parker do these workshops for writers, and they say in your screenplay you don't want and, you want therefore. You can't have this happens and then this happens and then this happens because they're completely unrelated events
Hmm.
and there's nothing tying them together. There's no driving narrative pushing things along. This happens, therefore that happens, therefore this happens. It's like a domino effect. You want everything to follow one another, and that's not the way Abrams works. You see that with Rise of Skywalker, things just happen.
Hmm.
It's like, oh, this thing has a map to, for some reason, this destroyed Star Destroyer. Even though this is an ancient relic, it tells you this location of a recent event. how does that work?
Mm-hmm.
Does it work through prophecy? What are we dealing with?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
And you
yeah.
can say what you like about The Last Jedi, but it did something different. It showed us what the future of Star Wars could be.
It
And
was interesting that it was trying to move away from Jedi and Sith to something in the middle, which taking that, the assumption that George Lucas was basing the Force on a lot of Eastern mysticism,
mhm,
like Taoism, Buddhism, Shintoism, that sort of stuff, that Mahayana Buddhism is the middle path. I mean, that's what the Buddha was trying to find, is this rich guy who then went into this life of poverty and neither of them were working. So it was like you have to find this middle path.
balance.
And that's where, the balance, that's where you can start to dissolve the ego and you can find nirvana, all that stuff. And so you have the two extremes, the Jedi and the Sith, righteousness, this villainy, neither of them works. So
Hmm.
you have to find that path in the middle. And that's what Rian Johnson seemed to be moving towards
Yes,
with this melding of Ray and
Ben.
so fuck Ben, whatever his Sith Lord
Kylo
name was,
Ren, but
but
his name is Ben.
Kylo Ren. Okay, Ben. So Ray and Ben was to meld those two into this middle path as like a couple that was between the two,
Hmm.
but that didn't happen. Is
No.
that Ray had to take on the Skywalker name because all of Star Wars has to be centered on the Skywalker family for some reason. That she can't be her own person. She has to adopt the name that Star Wars is associated with, which is disappointing.
Yeah.
But we're
Sorry.
way off Star Trek now and back to Star
Yeah,
Wars. So we kind of,
yeah. Got more
is that
Star
our
Wars than our
title?
Star Trek.
Not, yeah. If you got Star Wars in my Star Trek, is that going to be our title?
I don't know. We had some pretty fun titles
Yeah, yeah.
thought up,
A game of
but
cornhole.
a game of cornhole is
Yeah,
still a top
yeah.
contender. I will allow you to choose the
Oh
title.
boy, that's going to be tough.
Yeah, I will
Because
allow
it's
you to
kind of
do
fun to
that.
pick something that's actually related to what we're talking about, but maybe not
Yeah.
always.
It doesn't necessarily have to be something that we were talking about. So, but because we did talk about cornhole in the
Yeah.
context of
Yeah, I guess
the
that's true. Is the
story.
messaging of Star Trek? Well, that was more about Star Trek in general and its messaging rather than
Still
this film
worked.
specifically.
It still worked, and it still was part of what we talked about. So
Right.
it wasn't a complete tangent, but yeah.
We could say,
So
isn't this Bane's story?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Except then
Main
you'll need
story.
a apostrophe for S, and that doesn't work for SEO.
Hmm.
Something to think about.
Well, SEO needs to get with the program and use punctuation for fuck's sake.
Yeah, yeah, it's weird.
So, okay, so let us choose next
Oh
time's
yeah, we
episode.
get to do that. This
Yeah,
is
we
exciting
do.
on the new thing that Dan got us.
Yes, so I'm going to employ
Employ,
our
deploy,
AI. Okay, here we go.
accessing.
Give me a number between 1 and 933.
The answer is 85.
85.
85.
It's about how
85.
long my goth playlist is on Spotify. DJ Evil Dave, if you want to follow my Spotify playlist.
Okay, next week we are covering an animated series episode, More Tribbles, More Trouble. Episode
Oh,
is,
comedy episode of the
yeah,
animated series. That should be a
episode
nice departure.
5. Yeah, episode 5 of season 1.
Boy, this random Star Trek thing is working out to us so far, I think.
Oh,
We're just going back and forth and back and forth. Is that not
Did I do
really
this
it?
wrong? Did I do this wrong?
I did 85, right?
Release number. Oh, that's my fault. I lied. It's going to be a different episode. Okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I should have looked at the column that said release, the number in
Okay.
which it was released. So it's actually, I apologize. It's still TAS and it's The
Oh,
Survivor, episode
The
6.
Survivor.
The
Okay, so we're still
Survivor,
doing animated series.
but it's episode
So
6. The
episode
Survivor.
6 of which season, or was there only the
It's
one?
just there was 2 seasons. It's still season 1.
Season 1, episode 6 of the animated series Survivor.
The Survivor.
The Survivor.
The
So
Survivor.
there I am going on with SEO. Drop the at the just like Facebook.
Yep. And so that aired on October 13th, 1973. So I was 5 months and 1 day old at that time.
That would be 1 year and 5 months.
Yep, thereabouts.
Yeah.
So there we
There
have
it is.
it.
We're going to be doing animated series next.
Yeah,
Has this been a longer recording than usual, talking about
L-
a movie? I
a
can't
little
tell.
bit, a little
I don't
bit,
know
but
when
not
we
by
started.
much. It's really not as long as you might think. It
Yeah,
seems
it's
longer than it
usually
is.
we fall around an hour,
Yeah,
strangely. So,
it's
but
it's
I
probably
imagine
going to
this
be
one's a little longer.
it'll be a little bit longer. So
Right.
anyway, so that's our show for this week.
Yeah.
This fortnight. That's it.
Right.
Fortnight, not the game, guys. Fortnight is
yeah.
is an old-timey saying for 2 weeks.
For 2 weeks. Right.
Yeah, fortnight. So
Which
all
is
right
weird to
then.
name a video game after that.
I know, right? Just
Yeah.
very strange. Very
Yep.
strange. Don't care for it. All
No.
right then. Say goodbye, Dave.
Bye, Dave.
We'll see you in 2 weeks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Screw up.